So chapter 11, we're into Dynasty 19 here. So we're going to have Ra, Mun, Patat, Ra, Mus, Su, U, Ra, Mun, Ma'at, Yemen, Na, Marisat, oh, Satan. Okay, that's, I mean, you got to admit that's where Satan comes from, right? We have Patamer, Satine, Ra, Usr, Ma'at. We have Ra, Usr, Ma'at, Snupen, Yemen, Na, Mer, Masus, and we have Yemen and Yemen, Ra, Mer, Mus, Su. We have Yemen, Ra, Mern, Hern, and we have Yemen, Ra, Mun, Hatap, Pahar, and we have a genealogical table here that we're going to go over before we get too far, but let me start with the paragraph for this. Death of the king Hor-Yimhub closed the 18th dynasty. The heretic king Yetan X Ra Kun had, by his teaching about Yemen, somewhat diminished his prestige in the eyes of the Orthodox priest and people, and had created a schism in the internal life of the nation. For the new teaching, with its Semitic origin, had gained many adherents among the Egyptians. How peace was brought about, it is now difficult to say, but Hor-Yimhub certainly appeared as a mediator between the adherents of Yemen and the persecuted followers of the entity of the solar disk. While the kingdom was being disturbed by this burning question, a nation on the northeast had been growing up which now began to endanger the Egyptian supremacy in Western Asia. Already during these annual wars undertaken by Jahota Nefer Cuthber Mus, the third, against the Syrian peoples, the Kheta, under the leadership of their own kings, had shown themselves to be a dominant race. Contemporary inscriptions designate them as the great people, or the great country, with less respect to the space they occupied than from their just reputation for those brave and chivalrous qualities which they were acknowledged even by their enemies to possess. We believe we are falling into no error if we recognize in these people the Hittites of the Bible. When Jahota Nefer Cuthber Mus, the third, fought with them and conquered their towns, they were an important people in the north of Syria. At the commencement of the 19th dynasty, their power extended over the whole of the surrounding nations. These predecessors of the Assyrian Empire held the first place in the League of the Cities and Kings of Western Asia. The Egyptian inscriptions do not hesitate to refer to their sovereigns in a conspicuous manner, and to speak of their entities with reverence when Ra must when Ra must swoo, Ramses the First, ascended the throne of Sapalele. Saplel, or Saprer, ruled as their king, was followed by his son and heir, Ma'urusar. At his death, he left two sons, of whom the elder was Malthanar, who appears as a contemporary of Seti the First. How do you say Seti the First? Patamer Setim. Okay. And an enemy of Egypt, while the younger Ketasar was the friend, ally, and father-in-law of Ra Uther Maas. Okay. So Ramses II. At the head of their entities, yeah, I guess that's right. At the head of their entities stood Satux, the Keta counterpart of Yemen, and his wife, the steed-driving queen of heaven, Astartha Anatha. And like the Goetia number 29, I discussed this further, but let's look at the chronology here. We have Ramesu the First gave birth to Meneptah the First, Seti the First, with Mut Tua'a. And Isenefer, Mary Yemen. Mary Yemen is a king, so the third king on our list here. Ramesu the Second with Neferari, Menemut with Neferu-Ra Ma'at, whose father was the king of Keta. But from that line, we have, these first two generations, about 1400 BCE, then 1366 and 1333. So around 1300, we have this generation, the sons, Amenhe, Uanameth, Amenhe, Kapashef, Ramesu, Prahi, Unameth, Kamus, Manthohe, Kapeshef, Neben Kal, Mere Amen, Setemua, Sete, Sotepenra, Mira, Jorge, Unameth, and the fourth king we got here, Meneptah the Second, Hotephema with Isenefer, Yemenhatep, Atefa Yemen, Metum, Nebent, Anab, etc. And so we get this from Hotephema and Isenefer. Around 1266, we have the sixth, so Seti the Second and Meneptah the Third. And on the other side, we have from the other lineage, we have Amenmesu and Hak Oast, Bek, Uraner. I guess we're not seeing a connection lineage-wise. And then another anti-king, Meneptah Siptah, with Ta'user, and an unknown. And the ninth king on our list, Ramesu the Fifth, Yemenhe Ko Peshef the First, Mary Yemen the Fourth. Okay, Seti Meneptah III. So around 1233, we have giving birth to Hawk on the first, and we also from 1233 thereabouts, Habuan Rosanath to Issa Hema Rosatha, the daughter whose husband was Ra Mesu III, and their children Ra Mesu IV, Mere Yemen III, Hak Ma'at, Ra Mesu VI, Yemen Iko Peshef II, whose daughter was Issa. So King 8 and 10 there, King 11, Mere Yemen V, Meretum the 12th, Ra Mesu the 7th, Atef Yemen Hak on the 2nd, the 13th, Ra Mesu the 8th, Set Hikap Peshef, Mere Yemen the 6th. So 1166 thereabouts, and 1133. So going back here to resume the reading. Among the towns of the Quetta, Tunep, Daphna, and Kilebu, Haleb, are 2 points certainly fixed by their definite position, and both had temples of the great Baal Suttaks. Sort of putting together the different foreign entities, ideas. On the other hand, the names of the country of Qazawatana points with certainty to the region of Gazan, Gauzantis to the east of the Euphrates, between the towns of Circessium in the south and Thapsacus in the north. The situation of the countries of the Quetta, Zaranda, Pirpa, Arpilpa, Peleg, or Pelaga, Kasap, Sarsu, Sarpina, Za'ath, Kira, Hinder, Za'ath, must be determined by future inquiries. Perhaps we may find an answer to these questions in the Assyrian inscriptions. If it is allowable to form a judgment on the origin of this cultivated and powerful people from its outward appearance, it seems to be very doubtful whether we should reckon it among the Canaanites, beardless, armed in a different manner, finding 3 men in each chariot of war, arranged in their order of battle according to a well-considered plan previously laid down. The Quetta present a striking contrast to their Canaanite allies in the representations of the wars of Ra, Usur, Ma'at. Oh wait, no, that's not Ramsey. Ra, Usur, Ma'at, Snoopen. Is that how we're saying Ramses II? Okay, that doesn't against the Ketasar, the foreign king appears surrounded by his generals and servants who are mentioned by name down to the letter writer Kirpasar. His warriors were divided into foot soldiers and fighters in chariots and considered partly of Quetta, partly of foreign mercenaries. Their hosts were led to battle by Khazans, are commanders of the fighters in the chariots, by generals, and Herpits are captains of the foreigners. In the battle of Kadesh, 8,000 Tuher, chosen ones, stood in the foremost rank under the command of Kamaiz, while 9,000 others followed their king. In the same battle, the noblemen Tharganas and Pa'is led the chariots. The Dar commanded the mercenaries. Nebe Suana was at the head of the foreign warriors from Anas, and another chief appears as the general of the mercenaries from Nagabus. Zapsar and Masarema are spoken of as brothers of the king. Whether real brothers or only allies is not clear. Among other names of Keta origin, the following are mentioned: Garbatus, Thargathazaz, Tadar or Tadal, Za Uazas, Samarias, and of that of the ambassador Thar Thisabu. It is evident at once that these names do not bear a pure Semitic stamp. The endings in S, R, and U prevail. And the proper name, well, there's two S's and different U's, but and the proper name Thargatha Zaz, which ending Zaz plays the same part as the proper name of Za'ua Zaz. Thargatha seems to answer to the entity called by the Greeks and Romans Atargates or Atargatis. Derketo and Derketis, who possessed very celebrated temples in Ascalon and Ashtaroth, Karnaim, as well as in the Syrian town of Hierapolis, Magbog. The peculiarities of the language are, for the most part, found in the hitherto unexplained series of names of towns which form the second division of the northern peoples in the lists of the victories of Jahota, Nefer, Cusper, Mus, the third, at Karnak. These lists are of the greatest value, a memorial of times and people who have long since vanished. 100, are these all? 120, Kirketa, 121, A, 122, Amau, 124, Thuka, 125, Thelmana, 126, Lagaba, 127, Tunipa, or Daphne, 132, Nya, 134, R, 135, Zizal, 136, Zakal, 139, Arzakana, 140, Karkaki, or Karkaka, Karkaka, 141, Bursu, 142, Larte, 145, Unae, 146, Unfer, 147, Ethakab, 148, Uni Upa, 150, Sakti, 151, Abaleni, 152, Zanru Isu, or Zaru Isu, 153, Suka, 154, Bazalu, 155, Saf Akbeg, 156, Amarseki, 157, Kalros, 158, Nanu Rananta, 159, Sha'u Iranta, 160, Ma'ireknas, okay, 161, Zagarel, 163, Kan Retu, 164, Teresa, 166, Unris, 167, Ares, 168, Kaz Rez 169, Arnir, 170, Katha'e, 173, then Uzuru, 184, Anauban, 185, Katuma, 186, Magnas, 187, Thapkana, 188, Thuthana, or Susan. Yeah, you would never guess Susan out of that one, would you? 189, Nireb. 190, Beleb, or Thalaba. 191, Utugaran. 196, Nishapa, or Nisibis. 197, Tazeker. 198, Abatha. 199, Zeros. 200, Alther. 201, Natub. 202, Zetharseth. 203, Suka'ua. 205, Tua'ub. 206, Abirna. 207, Sha'in Arka'e. 208, Irma. 212, Ka'inab. 213, Aris. 214, Ana Uta Senu. 215, Azana. 216, Zeth Ar Setha. 217, Tul Bentha. 218, Ma'ute. 221, Atur. 222, Kartha Maruth. 223, Sitha. 224, Tan Eros. 226, Athabena. 227, Ashameth. 228, Athakar. 229, Tazet. 230, Athrun. 231, Thukamros. 232, Abetha. 235, Anzakeb. 236, Ares. 237, Artha. 247, Barua. 252, Sur. 253, Papa. 254, Nuzana. 255, Zamauka. 259, Sukabeka. 263, Athene. 264, Kar Sha'ua. 265, Baratama. 271, Zazker. 272, Ma'urmar. 279, Ka'etu. 280, Pedera, or Pethor. 281, Athrathon. 282, Masha'ua. 283, Enreka. 284, Nepir Uriu, Nippur. 285, Nathkana. 286, Athatama. 287, Apelanu. 288, Air and El. 289, Air and El. Well, we've seen multiple with the same name here before, so that should be okay. Well, I guess Ares and Ares, 290, Anaue. 292, Thalek. 293, Urna. 296, Papabe. 306, Aber. 307, Kalma'etha. Kilamad. 308, Amak. 309, Gazelle. 310, Uma'e. 311, Kalabu, Haleb. 312, Pe'u'anel. Pnuel. 315, Ukam. 316, Puroth. 318, Arapenaka. 320, Pu-Ka'u. 322, Thenur. 323, Zarnas. 333, Erima. 338, Thatup, 343, Shu Saran, 347, Tha Makor, 348, Retep, Retap, 349, Ma'urika. Although we possess no information from the monuments about the family ties which united the king who was the head and founder of the 19th dynasty with his predecessor, Horemheb, there must have been a close connection between them. Whether Ra, Muth, Swu, Ramses I, was son-in-law, son or brother of Horemheb is as yet undecided, but his reign was neither remarkable nor of long duration. His fame consists chiefly in being the father of one very celebrated man and the grandfather of another. His recognition by the priest of Yemen as the legitimate king is authenticated by the representation of his coronation at the entrance of the gate of the temple at Karnak. And we have the temple of Karnak, which corresponds far more to the brain and the rest of the body than you would think. But the plan of the temple, you have the first propylon, then the open area, with corridors and a single column erect, the second propylon, the great hall, the third propylon, the fourth propylon, the hall with Assyrid figures, the granite sanctuary adorning chambers, the open court, the columnar Ephesus of Jehoshaphat Neferkutspur, third, the temple of how do you say Ramses the Third? I don't see Ramses the Third, so I'll just say Ra Swu. Okay. The temple of, okay, I said that the sculptures of Seti the First, the sculptures of Shishak, the sculptures of Ra Usur Ma'at Snupen, Ramses II, small obelisks, large obelisks, pillars of Usertsen the First. Oh, how do we say that? Usertsen, the first. The Hall of the Ancestors. The L bit there, the Temple of Ramses III, is an interesting, sidebar to this temple. It looks like it's just tilted, just a little bit here. A memorial stone at Wadi Halfa, dated in the second year of his reign, the 20th Mekher, informs us that King Ra Swu, Ramses I, was founded there a storehouse for the father of his, the temple of his divine father, Yemen Su, and filled it with captive men servants and maid servants from the conquered countries. Ra Su was laid in his own tomb chamber in the valley of the king's sepulchres and was succeeded by his son, to whom the monuments give the name of Ma'at Ra, Meneptah I, Seti I, known as Sethos, around 1366 BCE. And Seti I is Ptah Mer Satin, and Meneptah is Iman Namur Satin, the great national temple at Thebes records the honors of Ptah Mer Satin, Seti the first, for the king executed works, the glorious entity Iman, the splendor of which is only surpassed by their extraordinary size. We refer to the building of that wonderful great hall in the temple at Karnak, where 134 columns of astonishing height and circumference still attract the admiration of the present age. The wars of Ptah Mer Satin arose from the constant advances of the neighboring peoples upon the delta, the long duration of peace, as well as perhaps the weak reign of Ra Maswu, the first, had caused them, and especially the Shashu, to take the bold resolve of pressing forward over the eastern frontier to find sustenance for their cattle on the possessions of Pharaoh. 6 battle paintings ranged in a series on the outer wall of the north side of the great hall of pillars in the temple at Karnak describe the principal events of this campaign. War broke out in the east in the very first year of Ptah Mer Satin's rule. From the fortress of Etham, in the land of Zaru, Tanitic known, as far as Canaan, which proves that they had pressed westward into Egyptian territory to make good their claims derived from the Hyksos. The king assembled his army and himself rode in his warrior chariot against the invading Badawi. The road the Egyptians took is clearly indicated by the pictures and inscriptions. The campaign was begun from the fortress of Khatam, which was situated on both sides of an arm of the Nile. Which swarmed with crocodiles, and whose banks were covered with reeds. The king took thence the direction of the way of the Philistines, and first reached the fortified but otherwise unknown place, Ta'apa Ma'u, the Untopolis, the house of lions, near a small fountain of sweet water enclosed by a wall. His march was next directed to the Egyptian fortress of Migdol, close to the springs of the country of Hazina, or Hazian, the Cassion, or Mount Cassius of the ancients, and along the road to the north fortress Ati Buto, also near a spring. Here stood the often mentioned temple on Mount Cassius, in which Yemen was worshipped, who was the Baal Zapuna of the Egyptian inscriptions. The Baal Zapun of the Holy Scripture, household lord of the north, I guess. The army passed along the seashore to Ostracine, where there was a tower designated Pa Nektu, or the conqueror's town, of King Ptah Mer Satin. At this point, the boundary of Egypt proper ended, and the land of the Philistines began. The next halting place was a fortified spot, newly built by Ptah Mer Satin. At the water of Ab-Saqab, two other fortresses lay on either side of the road. The larger one was called the town, which the king had built at the spring of Da. It is also called a strong place in a second passage, and its water is designated as that of Rebatha, without doubt, the Rehoboth of the Bible. The southwest of Beersheba in Negeb are the south country of Palestine. The smaller fortress stood near Taknum Neteb, the sweet spring. It is called Anaktu, the fortress of victory. Passing by a new fortress, the name is unfortunately destroyed. The end of the road was reached. Excuse me, the birthplace of Evian. And at the same time, the eastern boundary of the land of Shasu, marked by the hill fortress of Canaan, of the land of Zahi, near which a stream seemed to have fallen into a lake. The fortress was stormed, and the king took possession of the land of the Shasu. To its extremist boundary, thus becoming lord of the whole Edomitish Negeb. Their first victory is thus celebrated. In the first year of the king Seti, there took place by the strong arm of Pharaoh the annihilation of the hostile Shashu from the fortress of Katam of the land of Zaru as far as Canaan. The king was against them like a fierce lion. They were turned into a heap of corpses in their hill country. They lay in their blood. Not one escaped to tell of his strength to the distant nations. The Shashu next attempted to make head against the Egyptians, but were completely routed in the territory of the Phoenicians. These latter were speedily punished for going to the help of the Shasu, where the Pharaoh annihilated the kings of the land of the Phoenicians in the battle of Inu Amu Gemnia. The Egyptians next turned against the Ruteno of Canaan. The kings of the several cities were successfully overcome in many battles in which a son of Ptah Mar-Satin fought by the side of his father. Pharaoh evidently took special delight in this combat, for he says that his joy is to undertake the battle, and his delight is to dash into it. His heart is only satisfied at the sight of the stream of blood when he strikes off the heads of his enemies. A moment of the struggle of men is dearer to him than a day of pleasure. He slays them with one stroke and spares none among them, and whoever of them is left remaining finds himself in his grasp and is carried off to Egypt alive as a prisoner. In his victorious campaign throughout the whole land of Canaan, through which he was borne by his pair of horses, named Big with Victory, the great fortress of Kadesh, which had already played such an important part under Trahota Neferkasper Mus. The third was reached. The inscription thus designates the campaign. This is the going up of Pharaoh to conquer the land of Kadesh in the territory of the Amorites. The arrival of the army was unexpected. The herdsmen were pasturing their cattle under the trees which surrounded the city. When Pharaoh appeared, each sought to save himself, and the herds fled with their keepers, the warriors of Kadesh. As they sailed out, were pierced by the arrows of Ptah Mer-Satin and fell from their chariots. The defenders in the fortress fared no better. They also gave way before the violent assault of the Egyptian army, and fortress and people fell into the hands of Pharaoh. From Kadesh onwards, the land of Keta lay open before the hosts of Pharaoh. Ma'uthanar, the king, had broken the treaties which had been made between his predecessor and the Egyptians, and had given notice to Pharaoh of the termination of their alliance. Ptah Mer-Satin, as the avenger of broken treaties, made no delay in falling upon the Kheta, and success crowned his enterprise, although the well-ordered hosts of the Kheta on foot, on horseback, and in chariots offered a determined resistance to the Egyptians. Yet, for all this, they were unsuccessful. An inscription describes thus the Egyptian victory. He is a jackal, which rushes, prowling through this land, a grim lion that frequents the most hidden paths of all regions, a powerful bull with a pair of sharpened horns. He has struck down the Asiatics, he has thrown to the ground the Kheta, he has slain their princes. The king was victorious, great was his strength, his war cry was like that of the son of Nut, that is, Baal Suttux. He returns home in triumph. He has annihilated the peoples. He has struck to the ground the land of Kheta, and has made an end of his adversaries. The enmity of all peoples is turned into friendship. The terror of the king has penetrated them. His boldness has opened their hearts. The kings of all of the countries find themselves bound before him. After the battle, the peace was concluded, and the king, taking with him an immense number of prisoners, prepared to return home. He went by the royal highway through Kadesh, but made a diversion into the country of Mount Lebanon. Inhabitants of the Canaanites of the purest race received the king in the most reverential manner, lifting up their hands to hail the conqueror. An inscription says, "The priests and elders of the land of Lebanon, they speak thus when they pray before the Lord of the land, to exalt his renown. Thou appearest like thy father, the sun entity. Men live in thy glance."